Well, good evening and welcome to Providence College. We are very excited to have you here tonight and want to wish you congratulations on your acceptance to Providence College. So welcome to Friartown. We're super excited that you're going to spend a little bit of time with us learning about this interdisciplinary approach to studying at PC. And we have a really great night planned for you. We have two of our current students and then an alum that will kind of talk to you a little bit about their experiences as a student, what they were able to kind of work with regards to professors, and kind of just how they navigated through their journey at Providence College and some of the things that they've been able to take away from that. But to kind of begin, my name is Patrick Brennan. I'm one of the assistant deans of admissions at Providence College, and I am an alum, so I definitely can add a little bit of my stories, from that perspective as well. But I'll let Valerie kind of take the reins and talk a little bit more about the alum perspective for her, and then allow the current students to talk about what's going on currently on campus. We're really excited for this opportunity once again to talk a little bit more about the academics of Providence College. I think for us, when we talk about PC, the academic excellence is something that is so crucial and so important. And it really all begins with the liberal arts core curriculum. So right away, our foundation as a Dominican institution is the pursuit of veritas, this pursuit of truth. So the Dominican friars kind of believe in that faith and reason they're ones that can work together. And for our students who are studying throughout the liberal arts education, they're kind of pursuing this truth and they're kind of becoming this well-rounded individual. They're having this opportunity to question, to ponder, to ask these thought-provoking questions, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. So for no matter what major you might be interested in studying out there, just know that you're going to experience this interdisciplinary approach throughout your time at Providence College, specifically with that liberal arts core curriculum as the foundation. But we're here today to talk a little bit more about some of our majors like global studies or political and community service, American studies. There's a lot of different options, we all know. So I want to give the opportunity for our panelists who have given up graciously their time to begin by just introducing themselves. So if each of the panelists can go, introduce yourself, whether you are a current student or an alum, your major, where you're from, and then we'll kind of go in and talk a little bit more about, I have some questions, and then we'll see what kind of questions those who are listening have for us all. So why don't we start with our alum? So Valerie, why don't you kick us off?
So my name is Valerie Chase. I graduated in 2014. Although I still pretend that I'm like the class of 2021, so it's fine. I was a public and community service major and a French double major. So kind of like we were talking about, that interdisciplinary approach at Providence is something that's really unique, that allows you to have a lot of academic experiences and not just you can kind of mix and match your major to be what you want it to be. I'm from Central Massachusetts, but I do still live in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm about like 3 miles up the road, and I'm a social worker for the Children's Mental Health Outpatient Facility.
Perfect, thank you. Rita, do you want to go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Rita. I'm a current junior here at Providence. I'm a management major and a public and community service minor from Westchester, New York.
Perfect. And last but certainly not least.
Hi everyone, my name is Cece Granados. I am from Baltimore, Maryland. I am a junior at Providence College, and I am a double major in global studies and health policy.
Perfect. A rock star, a panelist tonight, so really appreciate that. I think, one of the things I want to kind of set the scene for is this is an opportunity for those who are listening to kind of have all your questions answered about a particular major, about something in particular about Providence College. Honestly, we'll kind of cover everything, tonight. Our main focus is certainly the academic side of things. So please feel free to submit questions. This is your opportunity once again to kind of get these questions answered. So to kind of kick us off though, I was wondering if each of the students and Valerie, if you could talk a little bit about how you ultimately found Providence College. How did you end up choosing PC? And if you could also tie in if you came in as the major that you are now or graduated as, or if you had changed majors. So why don't we start with Cece? Do you mind starting us off?
Yeah, sure. So actually for me, at least since I'm from Maryland, um, the school that I went to, it's a Jesuit high school, so it's called Cristo Rey. And that's basically how I found out about Providence, because Providence is a Catholic institution. And that was when the first time I met actually Patrick, that he came and he gave at least a informational interview in my school, and I had the opportunity to learn more about Providence. When I applied to Providence my incoming freshman year, I came in as a bio major. Um, After first semester being bio, I decided that it wasn't a path that I was passionate about, um, at least in regards to the way that I want to work with public health. So that's when I decided to major in global studies after taking a intro course in global studies. And then later, my second semester freshman year, I declared health policy.
Perfect. How about you, Rita?
So when I was trying to pick what school I went to, D1 sports was very big for me. I wanted a small school, but D1 sports, and Providence College offered that. I also came in as an education major, so Providence College has a great education program. I am now management because I took an accounting class freshman year, and I loved business, and I realized that was my path. But that's why I chose PC in the beginning.
Perfect. And when did you add in a minor, right? Because didn't you add in the PSP as a minor?
Yes. So I added in a minor my sophomore year. I took PSP 101, and I did a program called the Walking School Bus. And it's basically when you went to physically go walk kids, elementary kids to school. And I realized I loved it and I wanted to be a part of it, but I also loved business. So to make it worthwhile, I did both.
Awesome. Fantastic stories. We'll dive into a little bit more about adding on a minor or doing a double major, but I want to give Valerie an opportunity to kind of share a little bit of her story.
You're making me think back now, Patrick. Oh my. So when I was deciding to choose an undergraduate program, I knew I really wanted small professor to class sizes. I went to a really small high school in central Massachusetts, and I found that the smaller class sizes were really beneficial for my learning. And I just knew I wouldn't do well in like a class of 300, where I just felt that I was another number. So I really tried to focus on schools that had a low professor to student ratio in the classroom, as well as classes that were only taught by professors. I understand that graduate students are amazing. I was a graduate student, I taught classes, but in my undergrad experience, I just really wanted that personalized, individualized attention. And I found Providence did a really great job at that. I came in undeclared. I was the freshman that took every single class in every single major under the sun, because I did not know what I wanted to do. And I took Public and Community Service 101, and I just found it was a really great way to tie my values of working with people, not for people, as well as creating a foundation that allowed for growth and expansion. And I think, yeah.
That's awesome. So I really love your three stories because I think they're all a great representation of what students could experience at Providence College, right? And I think when you're in high school, you have some ideas of what you think your life will be like, not only in college, but then also after college. And then you come to hopefully Providence College and you realize, all right, there's a lot more out there. There's some different paths that I can take, and there's opportunities that exist. I always like to say you have to be open to those unexpected experiences that kind of come your way. And I think for each of you, you kind of talk a little bit about how you've navigated. Maybe you came in as a declared major and you switched majors, which is very easy, I think pretty simple to do at Providence, or for Valerie's case, coming in as an undeclared student and kind of surveying, using that liberal arts background, taking those liberal arts core curriculum classes and trying to find, your path in terms of what was the right major for you. And ultimately you did find it, which is great. And it's led you on this wonderful career. So I think for, in Rita's case, she kind of has that business focus as a major, but then she's added in that minor component. And, for students who are wondering, yes, you can do a double major. You could do a double major and a minor. You could do a major and a minor, or a major and multiple minors. Like there's so many variations. I'm sure, each of one of your friends probably have some different variations kind of associated with all those different options out there. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that Valerie mentioned is really crucial, and something that we love to stress at Providence is that we are a family. We're the Friar family. We really emphasize that small classroom environment. Our average class size is 20 students. So right off the bat, you're going to be in that setting that allows our students to kind of get to know their professors on a first name basis. And I'm sure for some of the global study classes, or even public and community service, what we like to call PSP, we've referred to it a couple times already as PSP. I'm sure those classes are even smaller, right? There could be maybe 10 or 12 students in those classes. Once again, having that opportunity to kind of form some really strong connections, which is one of the things that I'm hoping that maybe the three of you might be able to talk about is what's an example of like your favorite professor that you've had at Providence that's tied to, your major, or for Rita, in your case, like your minor. Did you have a favorite class or a favorite professor? So we'll go reverse order. So let's start with Valerie this time and see if she has one ready to go.
So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to do two.
Okay, perfect. Even better.
So my first favorite professor in the public and community service program retired a few years ago, but her name was Ellen Salvatore, and she was also a big D1 fan. She never missed a Providence College hockey game, so got our priorities in order. But I developed a relationship with her through my freshman year, just because, kind of like Patrick spoke about, like the class sizes are really small, it's really intimate. And my junior year, I actually had the opportunity to co-teach a class with her. One of the public and community service classes, intro classes, I was able to co-teach with Ellen and kind of get to know the people that are thinking about PSP or considering it and talking about it, and just being kind of a student voice in there. And I just felt that experience of being between the two was really beneficial because it allowed a more holistic experience in the major. And then for kind of as an alum, my professor that has carried with me through public and community service, I actually had lunch outdoors this weekend, 6 feet apart, full masks. We were very safe. And whenever we try to get together about once every 6 months, because those connections that we built at Providence were so deep that we still remain in touch. And I graduated, 6 years later. So I think that's really special that I still have that relationship.
Who was that, Valerie? I think I missed
Rick Battistoni.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's fantastic. How about you, Rita? Do you have a favorite professor or favorite class that you've taken through the PSP as a minor in PSP?
I would say as my favorite professor, Keith Morton. He is my advisor as well as he teach my practicum class, and the practicum class was really cool. We did this research project. It was actually around COVID time, so we interviewed students about the COVID-19 pandemic and how their lifestyle is on PC campus. So that was pretty cool. He also taught me like a lot of important lessons about leadership skills and how to advocate for yourself within the community, as well as in other situations in like classes or internships. So he really taught me a lot.
Yeah, Keith's a great guy. So that's awesome. I love that you've had that experience. I think that's any opportunity to kind of have a conversation with him, it is pretty incredible. So that's awesome, Rita. How about you, Cece?
I would say Dr. Alfonso. Well, she usually goes as Nuria. That's how we call her in the Global Studies department. I would say that she's been a mentor for me at least these past 3 years. As a global studies major, she's my advisor, and she was the first person that I had the opportunity to talk with in regards to declaring this major. And I've had various classes of her as well. Last semester before the pandemic hit, I was supposed to travel to Ecuador as part of a class that I was taking of her. And so we were working with, trying to make a connection between PC and then the community in Ecuador, and just create a partnership in which, we can, I would say, transfer, or at least be able to give out different ideas or different approaches towards education. And I would say at least that class was meaningful, especially since we were able to raise money to give back to that community, since it was all happening really quickly with COVID and everything that was going on last semester.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity right there. And, appreciate the fact you sharing the interactions that you had with her, because I think that's really important and beneficial for our students to hear. So, I think one of the things that students are probably interested in hearing a little bit too is, since you guys are all at different kind of stages and what you've been able to accomplish during your time at Providence, is how did like the liberal arts core curriculum benefit or overlap with some of your major classes, right? So how did like the liberal arts core curriculum, were they at odds with one another? Did you see some classes that kind of overlapped? How did the liberal arts core curriculum kind of fit into your academic journey is probably the best way to phrase it. So Valerie, why don't we start with you?
I'd say the academic core curriculum made me a more well-rounded student, in the sense that instead of just taking classes that were very specific for my major, where I was only with the same people, in the same cohort, in the same all the time, like it really broadened my horizons and taught me things that I didn't know that I liked. Like, who knew I liked biology? Who knew? Not me. And I just think I wouldn't have had those experiences without the core curriculum. And I found it dovetailed really nicely into my professional life nowadays, because I can look back at the experiences and the critical thinking and the analyzing of texts and the, those things that aren't necessarily class specific, but are more how you learn. And I think that's what's really most beneficial for the core program, because as much as I'd love to say, like, I remember 11 years ago when I took my first developments of Western civilization class and read Plato, I just think the ideas of Plato and how it is also, so multifaceted in all aspects of our life. And also it makes you really good at Jeopardy, because you have to take classes in all of these different subjects. And you can really impress people at Trivia and Jeopardy.
There you go. That's always important too. Got to be a valued member of your trivia team for sure.
Right.
How about you, Rita?
I would say that it allowed you just to think differently than every other college student and other universities. Like kind of what Valerie said, it's a well-rounded education. I came in as an education major. I never would have thought I would have been a business major and a public and community service minor when I came in freshman year. But these classes allowed me to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like. It gave me the opportunity to basically make my own schedule the way I would like it. Like I took an Chinese arts class. I never would have thought I would have taken a class like that, but I loved it. It's definitely going to make you go to Jeopardy one day. But I just love it, honestly. It's a great experience. It makes you well-rounded, like I said.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I think you definitely have the opportunity to explore some different types of classes for sure, which is a really great benefit. Cece, how about you?
I would say I agree with what everybody has been saying. And like the good thing about PC, and since all the class, at least for me, my experience with my both majors, it's been that they overlap a lot. And so, coming in as a bio major, you know, once I would say once I switched majors into global studies, in other schools, it'll be, oh, I have to retake a specific certain class because I came in as an original major. Now I have to, I wasted one semester of my, college year. But at least in my case, my bio classes, my calc classes, they counted as, science courses is counted as a quantitative requirement that we need for PC. And then a lot of my global studies and HPM classes, they just overlap in regards to, civic engagement, which are some of the core requirements that students here at PC have to do. And I would say it's been beneficial just in the sense that it gives me the opportunity to learn about more of what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about in a holistic way that in other colleges I wouldn't have that same opportunity.
Fantastic. Love it. So I think, for our current students, so this is going to be a question for Cece and Rita. So sorry, Valerie, for a second. What would you say is coming from like high school, right, where you're in school from 8:30 to 2:30 roughly, maybe every day, and now you're currently, living at Providence College, going to class. What is it like kind of adjusting to that college class schedule? Like, could you walk us through maybe like a typical day for you, like a day in the life of, Cece, and then a day in the life of Rita, currently, at PC?
Um, yeah, sure. I would say so. The biggest difference between high school and college is that there is more of a liberty in the sense that you have to take more responsibility in regards to the classes that you're going to take and also the time that you're going to dedicate after class to do assignments or any other projects or even extracurricular activities that you're involved in at college. And so, at least for me, a typical day would be, for example, let's say I would have a class at 9:30. My next class would be either at 10:30 or I would have like a 2 hour gap. Um, Usually my longest day would be only 3 classes. Relatively meaning I start at 9:30, I have a 2 hour gap, then another class, and then I finish at 5. And I would say that at least something that I didn't have to do in high school that I do now is that those 2 hour gaps in between classes mean a lot, whether it's a mental health break, that you just digesting all the information you just had for the past hour from a class, or it's a time that you dedicate for yourself to, do some assignments, do a quick reading before you go into your next class, or even just take a simple breakfast or lunch break. Um, or sometimes I use those, I would say those gaps to like schedule meetings for clubs or just any other thing that I might need in that particular day that I need to complete. And I would say like that's the biggest difference, that you have more responsibility and that you have to become more independent in that sense as well.
Perfect. Definitely agree with that for sure. How about you, Rita?
And then for me, I would say the biggest difference, kind of what Cece says, is time management. Um, like the gaps between classes, are you going to eat? Are you going to hang out with friends? Um, you just take advantage of everything that Providence College offers. The tutoring center, academic services, it's always there to help you. Maybe you want to schedule a tutoring appointment in between. I know I went to the writing center in between classes the other day. Um, it's just really important just to manage your time properly. And then a typical day for me is I personally like stacking up classes. It's important to know how you are as a student. It's very different from high school because I feel like they have a structure of what you're going to take, but here you get to pick if you want night classes, morning classes, midday classes. Um, so personally, I like to get up and just do classes, and then I like to kind of have the rest of the day to do homework or hang out with people. So it's mostly just understanding how you work as a student is very important.
Yeah, and Rita, I'm the complete opposite of when I was a student at Providence. I took 8:30s like one semester and realized that 8:30 classes was not for me when I got to college. I was a much more of like a night owl, so I definitely was like, give me like afternoon classes, evening classes. Then you start to make some adjustments when you enter into the real world, as you say. But I don't know about you, Valerie. Were you more of a morning person, or did you like to kind of spread things out a little bit?
So I, similar to Rita, would stack my classes. I was that girl like in your 8:30 class that was like ready to go. And I was like, yay, like great. I'm not that in my life now. But I would stack my classes kind of like Rita. And then I wouldn't have class on Fridays. So because I stacked my classes, so Monday through Thursday was busier. And then my Friday I didn't have any classes.
Which I think is a good way, a segue actually, Valerie, to talk a little bit maybe about the opportunities in each of your, majors, and then Rita for your minor for PSB, about like what are the opportunities for like internships or research opportunities kind of within each of your departments. So why don't I let, Rita and Valerie kind of go first, so they can kind of talk a little bit more about specifically PSP, and then Cece, you can talk about the Global Studies program.
You can go first, Rita.
Sure. So a program that interests me the most about PSP is the Feinstein Community Fellows Program. You basically serve as ambassador for the school and you communicate with like community partners. For like an example, Family Service of Rhode Island. I kind of talked about it before, like the walking school bus, where you go pick up students from their school and walk them from their house and walk them to the school. It allows you to like establish like a strong relationship with the community members, as well as like nonprofit organizations like within like Rhode Island. So I thought that program is really cool to be a part of.
Perfect.
So my program in public and community service, I saw, Grace, you asked how many students are in the PSP major. For me, it might be a little different. Rita or Patrick can speak to that now. I had a cohort, and my cohort was 15 people. So in the core major, there were 15, but anybody from the college could take the classes. So just because you were a PSP major, like management, like anyone could take the classes. So I'd say on average for me, my classes were around 16 to 18. And that's kind of what they averaged on for PSP, but when I was there. So I don't know if that differs for you, Rita, but.
Classes are basically around the same size because anyone can take it. I know my Practicum class is like PSP majors. That was about 8 people. So it kind of depends on the class. If like you can get like your diversity credit from PSP 101, so there'd be more people in that class than like a practicum, which is like a core for PSP majors. So it kind of just depends on the class.
Yeah, and I would say that like for PSP, we were the first school in the country to develop the public and community service major. So I always like to say that, as part of like a fun fact. It's a really great, I think, tradition of Providence College because we are devoted to service, right, and to serve others. I think it kind of is in line with our Catholic tradition and our belief system here. So, for our students who are getting involved in service, like outside as an extracurricular activity, but then we also have students who are really dedicated to doing that, in different majors, in different ways. And I think PSP is a really great opportunity for those students to do that. I will say that, oftentimes, since I recruit and work with high school students, PSP is, I find every now and again, a handful of students every year who I know about PSP and want to study it. I do think that it is a major that once students come to Providence College and they take that intro level or PSP 101, then they realize, okay, I really want this class, either as a major or a minor at that point. I think it's similar kind of to global studies too, in terms of like, I don't think students are aware of necessarily the program, and then they get to Providence College and they kind of realize, okay, PSP, global studies, there's some really great options here. But I want to give Valerie an opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about maybe some of the internships that she did when she was a student.
Sure. Just before I talk about the internships, I want to talk about the research component. Just because senior year in public and community service, there's a capstone, and each capstone is kind of what you make it. So there is a project at the end of the year that you need to complete for your capstone, but you can choose how that looks. So for me, I really wanted to conduct research because I knew I was going on to graduate school, and I needed to conduct research as a prerequisite for graduate school. So I actually completed a full thesis with research and presented it and defended it. And that is a really unique opportunity that I had. And I kind of got to choose my topic. I had a mentor previous that I spoke to that I still have lunch with, who guided me through the whole process. And it was really hands-on. And I just felt that was a really unique experience because I was able to create it for what I needed and what I was interested in. So instead of just having this big static like research project, I was able to tailor the research to my interest and where I was going in life. And then throughout the public and community service program for the 4 years, service obviously is in the title, and that's something we really want to foster. So I probably have held through my time at PC, my 4 years, I had about like 6 different internships, because also over the summer, I was interning as well through the PSP program. So I was running an after-school program in a low-income neighborhood here in Providence that kind of got kids ready for college. So I was running that 3 times a week. I had about 50 volunteers under me that I was responsible for coordinating. I was volunteering at an LGBTQ drop-in center, where I was actually responsible for all the activities, the weekly activities. I worked as a volunteer recruitment intern one summer. I've interned at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I'm trying to think, and then kind of similar to Rita said, like each class has a different service component as well through PSP. So some classes like have a relationship with a nonprofit in Providence that you will volunteer through as well. So it's really about getting your feet into the city of Providence and having that experience.
Yeah, and I think, we tend to use the words engaged learning to talk about those opportunities to either conduct research or have those internship components, taking basically what you're learning in the classroom and then applying it to the real world and having that real world life experience. And I think PSP is a great depiction of the opportunities through that engaged learning and really leave an imprint on the city of Providence. Like students are constantly out in the field, and I think that's a really great representation from both Rita and Valerie of what our students within PSP are kind of taking advantage of for sure. Cece, do you want to talk a little bit about global studies and whether you've done research or internship opportunities? I know you started to talk a little bit about the study abroad program that you were hoping to do and things like that. So if you want anything you want to kind of share, feel free.
So as as we mentioned before, global studies, it's more of a interdisciplinary approach towards education. As a global studies major, you have a core concentration that you have to declare before going into your senior year. So my core concentration is global health. I am a health policy major, and so because of my core concentration, I've done a lot of internships through the Feinstein Institute, with working with the Rowing Free Clinic in Providence. And a lot of those internships, at least that specific internship and another internship that I did last summer with Lummi Metro Baltimore, um, have been entailed with, helping communities, specifically minority communities, access to healthcare. And in regards to the Global Studies Department and their study abroad component, is that as a Global Studies major, it is a requirement that you study abroad. The Global Studies Department works with you in regards to financial aid, how they can better assist you, which is the best, study abroad program that goes with your major, and also which study abroad program is going to allow you to meet the core requirements of the major and of the school. And so when I applied for study abroad, I had chosen a study abroad program that was focused both in health and also in that international relations approach. Just because as a global studies major, we have to take courses in econ, we have to take courses in political science. We also are mandatorily required to take courses of another language. So since I'm a Spanish speaker, I decided to take French just because I was interested in taking a different language that I don't know. Um, and so my freshman and sophomore year, I took French. I would say it was a learning experience, at least for me, as a native Spanish speaker. It was interesting, having learning a different language that's not my own. And just, the fact that I was able to interact with other students who are also global studies that, they're learning Arabic, they're learning Mandarin, some are learning Italian. Just, we all, as global studies majors, we all come from, different walks of life, and we all have different knowledges in regards to how the globe, or at least how we work as global citizens. And that's a term that we use a lot within the global studies.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That term of global citizens. I mean, we're seeing it, I think, more and more this past year with the global pandemic, right? How we're all connected in certain ways, and how we can really interact with one another and be there and support one another for sure. So I think global studies or global citizens is a great word, a great phrase to kind of be using for sure. Obviously we wanted to focus on academics during our talk tonight because we know you're coming to college for an academic experience for sure, right? But we all know that there's a lot more to college than just the academic side of things. And I'm just wondering if our panelists can quickly kind of just share, besides the classroom, what are some other things that you're involved in, at PC that help kind of fill up your time, right? Because you were talking about before, all of you talking about time management, and you might only have you might have no class on a Friday. So it's like, okay, well, what do you do with those 8 hours back in your day. So quickly, before we answer Grace's question, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the clubs that you are a part of. And maybe actually, and you can answer Grace's question, which is, being in such a small program, would you say you've had a diverse friend group from other majors, or mostly have friends from just your majors? So maybe that can kind of go hand in hand, talking about some of the extracurricular activities that you've been a part of. Why don't we start with Cece?
So I am part of OLAS, which is the Organization for Latin American Students on campus. I'm also part of PMP, which is a peer mentoring students of color who are first gen. And then I am also a Feinstein Fellow, which is a year-long fellowship that I do with the Feinstein Institute. With working with a community nonprofit in Providence. And then just finally, I am part of the diversity outreach team for the missions office. And in regards to the question about having friends from different majors, I would say yes, I have friends that are from different majors. I have friends that are in the business department. I also have friends that are in social work. Um, Primarily, most of my friendships are within, I would say, the sciences, whether it's bio, HPM, or some friends that are social work, or sometimes even sociology. Um, we tend to talk a lot about, different issues in regards to our majors. So that's why we have, like, I would say that specific type of friend group. But generally, you can have friends from any class.
How about you, Rita?
For me, for clubs, I'm involved in peer ministry. So we have biweekly meetings, as well as I meet with my group members once a week, grab Dunkin' or something. I'm also in the Leadership Fellows program. So we have monthly meetings, talk about how to be a better leader on campus, as well as in the world. Um, I'm also a big intramural person. I play everything from dodgeball. I lost a dodgeball game. I'm very upset about it. To Jenga. I play everything. I'm trying to win a T-shirt, so we're putting our chips everywhere. But so far, no wins. But we will get there. We have another year. Um, and in regards to friends in my classes, I would say, yeah, I have friends in my classes because PSP is such a small major, but I also have so many other majors. None of my roommates right now is a PSP major. They're all business and sciences, so it's definitely clubs and campus makes you like meet many different kinds of people and gets you involved in so many different things that you meet so many majors.
Sure. How about you, Valerie?
So I actually met my husband at Providence College, and he was actually a PSP major. So, I mean, in that small sense, I guess it is a small program, and I married, here we are. But I will say for my friends, I actually met most of my friends in my dorm living. So actually out of my group of friends, I mean, I know I married a fellow PSP major, but most of my friends weren't in the program. There was a core group of us that all lived together for the 3 years of college, and none of us shared a major. So I just think that dorm experience and living on campus just allowed me to interact with so many different people on my floor. And that's kind of where I made my core friendships. And then for extracurricular activities, I was super busy because I was like, I'm only going to be in college once, might as well do it all. So I, like Rita, played intramurals. I did win a dodgeball T-shirt, so I'm sorry, but good luck. You're good. You'll get one, and you'll get one. I know the T-shirts are coveted around here at PC. People really fight for them. And I was a member of the French club. I was a member of the kind of admissions recruitment team. Tried to stay busy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a really good representation from each of you. And one of the things I was hoping to highlight was, yes, academics are our main focus, and as they should be, but there are so many other ways for students to feel connected at Providence College and have that opportunity to kind of create a family within a family and to really come together across different disciplines and different activities. And I think, what Valerie mentioned, the living in the different residence halls, really allows you that opportunity to kind of meet different friends from all over. We have single sex residence halls for your freshman year. So I think that's kind of a good way to form that like either sisterhood or brotherhood within those residence halls. But then also going back to the liberal arts core curriculum for a second, every student at Providence is going, freshman year is going to take the Development of Western Civ program. And as a result, you're going to make friends in that program because you're kind of all going through that 2-year program together. So you kind of all like bond over that civ experience, whether you're reading Plato or Aristotle, or you're reading something more more modern in this day and age. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to kind of form those different friend groups throughout, and you'll see that students tend to be involved in 4 or 5 different areas on campus. And I'm sure each of them all have more stories where they could talk about, hey, I was a part of, I went and I did this event, that was led by Board of Programmers or BMSA, or, I went to the hockey game, or I went to the basketball games. There's so many other things that we can't fit into this panel, tonight, that I think a lot of our students and our alums love to talk about when they talk about Providence College, because it really becomes that second home, for our students. And, similar to Valerie, myself, I graduated from Providence, and now I've been back on campus for the past 7 years. So you definitely becomes, your second home for sure. I kind of want to start to, if there's more questions coming in, feel free, to send them our way. But one of the last questions I have, for our panelists is, what advice would you give to a student who's a senior in high school right now, trying to figure out, where do they want to go for their next 4 years of their, for college? So like, what's some advice that helped you ultimately make your final decision, which was Providence College? Rita, why don't we start with you?
When I went on my tour, senior year of high school at PC, there was just a certain atmosphere that I was like, I applied D1, not D1, early decision. I was early decision, and I knew I wanted to come here. There was just like the community. Everyone was saying hi to each other. Friars are walking by saying hi to you. Professors are walking by saying hi to you. You have personal relationships with like all of my professors. They know me by my first name. Providence College is a very special place. If I'm not at the dunk cheering with my fellow teammates, I'm hanging out with people. It's definitely something that you want to be a part of, and it's a great atmosphere.
How about you, Cece?
I would definitely say that at least my biggest advice would be go outside your comfort zone. At least as someone that's, long distance from Maryland, I never thought that I would end up in Providence and, staying there for the next 4 years of my life. But I would say, having the ability to go outside your comfort zone, having the ability to, if you come in as a major that you thought that you wanted and later on you decide to change, you are allowed to do that. You're allowed to try new things, and you're allowed to experience new things as long as, it gets you to the path that you want to be and hopefully achieve someday.
Perfect.
I think for me, I really hope you guys think about really what you want. Because if you want a small school, or if you want a big school, or if you want, kind of like Rita said, you want D1 athletics, or, you want maybe, less emphasis on sports, I think you really want to sit down and think about what you're looking for out of your college experience as a whole, because as kind of we've talked about this evening, there's so many aspects to a college experience, and then kind of figure out, okay, Providence checks off all these boxes for me, or, kind of find what fits for you. And that might be controversial to say in front of the admissions counselor, but I think I would really hope that you guys find a good fit, and really think about what that fit looks like.
Yeah, no, I think that's always the advice I love to tell students as well, right? We want this, you've been on a journey as you've maneuvered your 4 years of high school. There's been ups and downs. This past year, there's been a lot of challenges dealing with the pandemic. And you're getting to that point of ultimately making a final decision. And at the end of the day, it really is about finding that right fit. As Valerie mentioned, it's about finding that place you can call your second home. We would love it to be Friartown, we would love to welcome you to PC in the fall and have you here on campus with us, taking advantage of the wonderful opportunities in the programs that we were talking about tonight, because we really do think that having a Providence College education can be life altering. It can really change your direction. It can change your path. It can allow you to develop those critical thinking skills, those leadership skills that you can then utilize as you move forward and become a global citizen, to use Cece's term, and to really be a leader within the community, whether that community is here in Rhode Island, back closer to home, internationally, whatever may be the case. That's really what we're hoping to do. And our former president, Father Shanley, always talks about our goal is to make lifelong learners. So we want students to feel like they have the strong academic foundation that they can then take that and keep progressing and keep moving forward, whether it's going on for their graduate degree, their PhD, or just in their workplace doing professional development and becoming a leader within their own area of focus is really crucial and really important. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. I think it was a phenomenal opportunity to kind of connect with you all. Grace asked if you guys would be willing to share your emails. So if you see the chat function on the bottom, if you guys don't mind sharing your email addresses, I think that's a really great point. And then if there's any further conversations or questions that anyone has that's listening, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to kind of help you as you're making your final decisions. I want to thank my panelists for joining me tonight. It was really great to hear from you all, to hear your wonderful experiences, both current and also as the alum from Valerie's side. Get to kind of relive the glory days a little bit and go through, which is always nice and always enjoyable. I don't know if any of the panelists have any final words that they want to say. I'll give them an opportunity.
I mean, I'll say something. I as someone that's looking back now, removed from Friartown, even though I live near Friartown, I really do consider it my family. And I think it was one of the best choices that I really could have made. I think I didn't realize how much I learned until I was kind of removed from it and was able to look back and reflect my time at Providence College and how much this amazing experience really gave me.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. I want to wish you all the best of luck as you move forward throughout this college search. And feel free to email, let us know if you have any other questions. More than happy to kind of connect with you. Thank you all and enjoy your evening. Go Friars.